Okay, I'm using Mpumalanga 2020 prelim, and I want to answer question 4.2.1. They say comment on liquidity, position of the company, quote 3 financial indicators with figures for 8 marks. It's very critical. So I need to remind you of what I've already said in another video, that the steps that you take in commenting in order for you to get 8 marks. Number 1, you identify a ratio. I'm just recapping what is already in another video. Number 2, you quote figures and you give a trend there. Number 3, you interpret the ratio, and obviously the last part will show you whether you'll be satisfied or not. So I want to show you using this particular question what I was talking about in the other video. So this video says liquidity. So if you check when you identify ratios, when you say liquidity, I listed a number of ratios under liquidity. So under liquidity, we said there is the current ratio. You have your current ratio. Under liquidity, you've got the acid test. Under liquidity, you've got stock turnover. Under liquidity, you've got stock holding period. Under liquidity, you've got debtors collection. Under liquidity, you've got creditors payment. Now, why is it important to know this before you even get to your information? Is because the moment you identify the ratio correctly, you get 1 mark. You quote and you give figures, you get that. You interpret, you get 3 marks. So in this particular question, they wanted 3 indicators, right? Which means you will, if you do that and you do that for 3 of them, this is already about 9 ticks, but you want a maximum of 8. So now let's go to the question paper itself. So if you check your question paper, because we know we want liquidity, you're going to see that at the back here, they gave you a number of ratios. So I've already said, let me put them on the side here so that you can see. Current ratio, we have it here. And then acid test, we have it there. Stock turnover, we don't have, but we have stock holding, and we've got debtors collection. So you will see that based on what I've already said in previous videos, here we are given 4 indicators: current ratio, acid test, stock holding period, and debtors collection. And you're given comparative years 2019 and 2020. Now you can see the acid test went up, the current ratio went down, the stock holding period went down, and then the debtors collection went up. So if I were to talk about what do we mean when you say identify, then give a trend and quote. Now it would mean that, let me do it this way. To identify means I must simply say current ratio. When I'm saying current ratio, I've identified the correct ratio, and then in this case it increased from 1.7:1 to 1.8:1. Now what have I done? I've given the trend there, the increase, and I've also quoted what? I've also quoted figures, which gives me another mark. If I want, I can interpret this. What does it mean? Remember, when you're interpreting, you are interpreting the current year, which means I'm interpreting 1.8. What does it mean? It means I've got 1.8 assets to cover 1 rand liability. That's the interpretation there. Now I can go to the acid test. If I use the acid test there, what does it mean? My acid test decreased, so this one decreased from 1.3:1 to 0.9:1, right? So I've given the trend there and I've quoted. Now, when you look at the current ratio, it means the business has got enough current assets to cover current liabilities, because this is the current asset, this is the current liability. So they've got enough current assets to cover current liabilities. But you look, if I try to interpret this one, which is the current year, this is the current asset, this is the current liability. But remember, the difference between the two is that in the asset test, you are unable to sell inventory. So there's no inventory in this 0.9. So meaning to say, if they can't sell stock, the business cannot pay current liabilities. If unable to sell stock, business can't pay current liabilities. That's what this means, because you can actually see the 0.9 is less than 1. So which means I cannot use 90 cents to pay 1 rand. It's not enough. Why is it not enough? Because in this particular case, I am unable to sell my inventory. Now, I've done that up to interpreting. Now, I can also go on and take the other one, which is your stock holding. Okay, your stock holding period. Now, if I take my stock holding period here, what happened to my stock holding period? It went down. So decreased from 68 to 52 days. Right? That's my trend there in the quoting of the figures. Right? And then when I'm interpreting this, what does this mean? It means they are holding stock for fewer days, right? Because they were holding stock for 68 days, now they're holding stock for only 52 days, which means the stock is actually selling. They're not keeping stock for many days. That's your interpretation. Now, if I do the last one, which is my data's collection, in this case, in this particular case, I've got data's collection, right? If I do my data's collection, now on my data's collection, we are saying it increased. So increased from 30 to 47 days, right? So in other words, it's now debtors are now taking too long. They were paying in 30 days last year. They are now paying 47 days. They are taking too long to pay. So my interpretation is that they are taking too long to pay. Now, so I want us to go back as we finalize this. When you look at this liquidity, the asset test shows you that the liquidity is good because you've got enough current assets to pay current liabilities. The asset test shows you that liquidity is bad because if the business is unable to sell stock, they don't have enough to pay current liabilities. Your stock holding period shows you that the liquidity is good because it means you're keeping stock for fewer days. But your debtors collection shows that liquidity is bad. Why? Because your debtors are taking too long to pay, which may cause a cash flow problem. Thank you.